Hello, Dan.
Hello, Dave.
3 minutes late. That's not bad.
That might be a record for it being as close to on time as we've been so far.
Hey, man, we're flying solo. We're clicking the buttons.
Yeah, we
the
shook
knobs.
off
We're doing
the
good.
shackles of our previous producer.
Man, it was terrible. The slave driver behind the scenes.
It's like living in Soviet Russia.
It is. That's exactly what it's like.
Not really.
All right. Well, okay, good. Let's get started here.
Okay.
Hey, so this should be the podcast episode 4. 4
Yeah.
weeks in a row. When does it become a habit? How many weeks in a row is it to establish a habit?
Let's see. Twice would be a conspiracy. 3 is twice is a coincidence. 3 is a conspiracy. 4 would be, I don't know.
I don't think we're talking about the same thing. I'm not sure. No, I don't know. Whatever. That's fine.
Okay.
Well, it's good. I mean, hey, man, we've been doing this for a month now. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that illustrates that it's not merely a flash in the pan.
Yes. Consistency. That's
Right.
what we are, if anything.
Of course, by merely talking about it, we're tempting fate, which means that next week we're going to be like,
Yeah. Also,
So-
ironically, we're talking about consistency, and we're a day late today, but it was a planned day late. It wasn't.
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on Tuesday. All right. So we tentatively decided we were going to talk about Ayn Rand and objectivism, or what were your feelings?
Yeah, we should talk about that. But I mean, I think maybe in the context of an old discussion point we had a long time ago, because to be honest with you, I don't know a ton about objectivism in the formal sense.
I don't think a
But
lot
I
of
think
people
we were-
do.
No, and I mean, I could fake my way through it, but I don't want to sound like a complete idiot. But I think we were talking about. I think at one point you had mentioned, this was years ago or maybe last year, like something about the individual is the greatest minority, and then there was kind of a springboard conversation on
Yeah.
on Ayn Rand and objectivism and self-interest and all that stuff.
Right. Well, and then the irony that we decided to talk about this before we really realized what was happening with the whole gas crisis thing.
Yes,
And then,
Yeah.
so we go from 2 days ago being like, self-interest can actually be a good thing for society as a whole. And then within 24 hours, we see the result of what the stupid version of self-interest is, and it just creates a mass panic. And so it's like, we had a good object lesson in life about how it's not just about self-interest. It's about the smart kind compared to the dumb kind, or compared to the immoral kind. Right. So
yes,
you
it
know,
can be both. Yeah,
in my quest to get gas this afternoon, I definitely saw a few vehicles, and then everybody mostly got along, but then once the one guy pulls the gas can out of the back of the truck, everybody
game
else
over.
in the line immediately turns on him, and we start to feel like, all right, how far are we from you turning into Mad Max?
Mad Max
in the middle of Durham.
Thunderdome, man. 700 cars enter, one man leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so I guess maybe we can give the positive case for self-interest first, and then we can delve into the real world and the negatives.
Yeah.
I think.
Well,
maybe I don't
think-
know. I mean, or if you got another way to talk about it. But I mean, a
Well,
lot of people might
I've
not
always
have an
found
idea
this
what
concept. Yeah, I found the concept to be quite interesting, just because Ayn Rand and objectivism, all this kind of stuff. Even though I'm not a total adherent to it. I mean, there's parts of it that I disagree with, but like, it often gets mischaracterized in a lot of different ways, and a lot of the people who claim to be objectivists are not very good evangelists for the concept. Right. That's part of the reason that it became kind of a dirty word in a lot of academic circles, because it became associated with people that were otherwise kind of unlikable. Like, it was, Atlas Shrugged was really popular with like Wall Street guys in the 80s, and people like, oh, rational self-interest. They latched onto that part and then just became vultures, essentially. And then they left off the whole like virtue part that was supposed to go along with it, and creating something that are net goods and stuff. Because like these Wall Street guys, they don't. I mean, I should probably back up for context here.
Yeah.
The whole concept was that like, I don't know. It depends on how far we want to go back as far as like the background of it. But I think to put it in a simple way, it's the idea that like, they say when you're on an airplane and if it becomes depressurized and you're a parent, put your own oxygen mask on first, because you can't help your children put their oxygen mask on if you've passed out. So to me, that doesn't just apply. That applies a lot in life. You know what I mean? Like you have to take care of kind of your own mental health and your own before you can really have anything to offer anyone else. You know what I mean? So, people feel selfish for like taking a personal day, or doing something that they enjoy, or, going out and having a meal by themselves. They feel like that's kind of splurgy, but it's like, if you don't take care of yourself and you don't figure out a way to manufacture, your own happiness and that kind of stuff, well, what good are you to anybody else? I mean, you certainly won't be good as like, you might be okay like as a friend, but like you're not going to be any good to anyone as like a romantic partner if you don't have anything in here, right? You're going to be probably not a very good parent. You're not going to be a good employee. So it's like, or like America, we can't, if our economy falls into shambles, we won't have any money to help other people around the world. You know what I mean? So it's in our best interest to, on a personal and larger level, to take care of the things that we have to take care of, because only then do we have anything that will be of any benefit to anyone else, I guess.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a personal extension of capitalism. It's a rising tide lifts all ships, as in you serve yourself, you better yourself, you accumulate what you can for yourself in a preferably moral way, and then that benefits everybody, as in like the advances in your personal life you can then share and outsource to others, kind of thing.
Yeah,
kind of sort of
exactly.
Maybe. Yeah, right.
I mean, Ayn Rand was a very staunch capitalist, right?
Yes.
For a variety of reasons, not the least of which was because she saw firsthand what happened when the Soviets and everybody took over, and how the removal of the desire to create and produce and get ahead totally destroyed that society. So her whole thing was that like, it was, because there was a popular sentiment of people saying that like capitalism is inherently greed, right? Again, not really helped by the, the greed is good mantra, of like Wall Street and stuff. So the idea that like, she would say, well, you know what, just participating in the economy is a net benefit. So like you run a business, I kind of work for myself in a lot of ways, kind of make my own hours and stuff like that. But like, just us doing our jobs and participating isn't in and of itself a benefit to society.
Yes.
Obviously, we're offering goods and services that people want, and that they're consensually choosing to buy from us, right? So the idea that like you're a bad person if you're not actively being altruistic, if you're, you know what I mean? Because running a business to make money is what we considered bad. Like, oh, you're just in it to make money. It's like, well, what's wrong with that? That's good. I mean, if I'm making money, that means that I must be clearly doing something that is of benefit to other people.
Yeah, by definition, it's a value.
And the fact that they are paying me for it means that like they value it enough to put money towards it, and they value and the fact that they're paying allows me to continue doing it. Mm-hmm. So like, I that leads into a whole other dovetail about the sort of the forced altruism part, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get super deep into the weeds on that, but I think that's a good review of just general self-interest. And I mean, and honestly, everybody is self-interested in one way or the other. And then, but the funny thing is, a lot of people hear that and they will immediately go to selfishness.
Right. And
we'll actually probably get there tonight. I mean, at some point, it does cross into selfishness. There's overlap there. And selfishness is not necessarily a good word for it, but some of it's bad, some of it's negative, but some of it, like you said, is it's good for you in the interest kind of way.
Yeah,
people are going to do what they're going to do for themselves first. almost
Yeah.
always, and that's just a natural human reaction. Whether it's warranted or laudable or something that we should do, it is the human condition to look out for you and yours first,
Yeah.
first and foremost.
Well, and I think there's the word selfishness has a negative connotation that where it doesn't necessarily have to be. Right. There's a wide spectrum of stuff that can fall into the category of looking out for yourself. You can do that in a healthy way, or you can do that in an unhealthy way. Usually what we assume when we're saying that person's being selfish, we're assuming that person's like, they're not thinking of other people to the other people's detriment, or they're doing some sort of short-term gain, long-term. They're not like, you know what I mean? But it doesn't have to be that way. So
Yeah.
what I find interesting is like, what's the guy's name? I think it's Yaron Brook. He's like the chairman of like the Ayn Rand Institute or whatever.
Yes. Yep.
And he's got this funny voice, which I'm not sure where he's from exactly. He's got this really interesting accent, but so it kind of makes him interesting to listen to. But anyway, he has this whole thing. He's really good at defending this kind of stuff because he'll say that like, because an objection would be like, well, what about that person that's just screwing other people? Like either doing bad business practices, you know what I mean, or they're or pick whatever it is that somebody might be doing. He's like, well, that person's not actually acting in their own self-interest by being unvirtuous, and they're actually doing themselves a disservice, right? So a predatory business practice that is defrauding people is actually not in that person's best interest because one, they're inviting, prison time, what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're also alienating customers, and they're leaving a hole in the market for a virtuous person to come in and fill that. So they're actually hurting themselves. You know what I mean? Yeah. In the same way that like an alcoholic would be hurting themselves. You can say like, well, so you're saying that self-interest is just an excuse to do whatever you want? It's like, well, no.
Yeah,
it's not. It's you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's not necessarily a license to do whatever you want. It's an empowerment to do what you should. Maybe.
Correct.
Maybe,
yeah. That's pretty good. Right, because it doesn't shield you from consequences of your action. Right. And that's good. I don't know. It does. Shoot, I was going to ask you. Do you think that selfishness crosses the line? I don't know. I've had a good way to. You started going into a good point, and I forgot my question. Thanks a lot.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Or is it selfishness then crosses the line when it is that at the expense of someone else's well-being? I mean, because you could be selfish and. I guess, or is selfishness always at the expense of someone else's well-being?
That's a good question.
Like, let's just use the gas thing let's just work it through with the analogy.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm driving and I need gas. I have with my place of business like 8 trucks. So my first thought is, holy crap, we got to go get some gas. So
they run on diesel or unleaded?
No, yeah, just regular. Yeah, we don't have any diesel trucks.
Oh,
so yeah, that would have been the time to have a diesel.
Yeah,
fleet, but yeah, we too late. So, but like my initial reaction is go get gas. Okay, like top off. If you got top off. This is what we need because we need gas for the week because we have work, we have customers, we have to keep things going. And I don't think It's not a unique perspective. Everyone who's driving goes, I need gas. I got to get to work. I got to go get groceries. I need gas for my car. Me getting gas for my fleet of vehicles, or you getting gas for your car to go to work, isn't at the expense of others. By definition, I don't think. So I don't think that's selfish.
I mean, there is technically a limited supply.
Correct, but there's a limited supply for everything. I mean, resources are finite.
Right. The fact that one of us got to the gas station before somebody else, is it unfortunate? I mean, life isn't fair. Somebody has to get there first, and somebody has to get there last.
But was that selfishness? I don't think so. I think that's a self-interested move. Say, I need gas, and I got some. Now,
yeah, I mean, people have to go to work. The selfish part, I guess, would be the examples of people who aren't even working. You know what I mean? If you're one of those people that's getting $16 an hour to stay home and watch Netflix, and then your immediate thing is to run out and buy a bunch of gas and fill up all your canisters,
right. Right. So like you see the pictures of people with like they literally went and bought a bunch of 5 or 10 gallon gas tanks, and then they're filling those up and filling the back of their truck bed out with it. That seems like selfishness. I mean, you don't need those.
Yeah.
But do you need like I? But do
Well, the problem
I
is we
need it to
don't know.
gas?
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
That's true.
I
You
saw a
don't.
guy this
And
I saw a guy this morning, and I started getting in my horribles. Like, I was like, look at that guy, and I was like making up this whole backstory about why that guy was a dick for filling up a can. But I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, he could be running
Maybe
a
he's got-
business.
Yeah, he might have like 30 lawnmowers. And,
Or
like,
he might have a
he's
friend
gonna-
that's stranded on the side of the road. You know what I mean? Or he might have a generator that keeps his mom alive. You know what I mean? Or you know, who knows? So
Well, see, that makes it really interesting then, because we in our heads go selfish prick, and you're just like, well, you know, I mean, he could have a justified reason for it. He could.
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing to nail down.
well, and the only solution to this would be to have like, well, okay, then clearly there needs to be somebody in charge regulating all of it and determining who gets gas and who doesn't.
Oh yeah.
And so
Gas
now we
commissar.
basically just invented government.
Yes. The gas czar would be great. Yeah.
Right. But then that person is just, then that person gets paid off, and then now you've got the mob. Right. So, I mean, there is no perfect solution. I mean, the answer to this is that life isn't fair. There's always going to be something that's finite that people are competing over. And when you have a sudden topsy-turvy upheaval of the status quo, yeah, some people are going to get left out on the bottom, and some people are probably going to benefit not in an amoral way, but some people are just luckier. Then there are people who benefit because of shady ways. And that's part of life. It always will be, I think,
Yeah, but the circle around on the following with that logic, I think you said it good earlier. You said being self-interested or selfish in that term allows you the freedom to then use that freedom in a productive and societal beneficial way. That came out terrible, in a way that can benefit society. Whereas, unfortunately, if there was a gas allotment, we would, it'd be gas lines, it'd be bread lines. It'd be like that wouldn't work. And then you wouldn't have excess gas. Like if there was just, we're going to allot this amount of gas for every human being in this state, we would be out of gas in a freaking heartbeat, because you can't artificially set that demand. You don't know what that demand is, and then you run on shortages. I mean, that's the failures of planned economies over history.
I wouldn't even be opposed to, from what we learned from this experience, I wouldn't be opposed to, like, if the government wanted to be like, hey, let's invent a little thing here we call like a gas shortage emergency protocol, a specific set of scenarios, and then they get all the different oil companies to kind of sign something. All right, here's what we do. Because we apparently can't trust the general public not to do a mad rush on. Why don't we, like, in specific scenarios, we set a limit, right? So like every car that comes through, nobody can buy more than 10 gallons, right? And then you would have to. There would be like, you'd have to. Logistics would be hard, right? You'd have to have people going. All right, let's keep the line moving. You know what I mean, like that. Rationing of that kind of stuff, and then once the state of emergency gets lifted, everything goes back to normal.
Right.
I mean, maybe that could be abused, but I mean, that's something that, like, that's a middle ground, right?
Yeah, I mean, as a short term,
you have a specific set of scenarios that have to be like, in the event of the, if gas lines reach less than 50%, and we would declare a state. They have some sort of state order, that the Cooper or whatever would sign. I don't know, but then
I know. Yeah, I hear what you're saying practically and pragmatically, but I'm every single one of my anti-government feathers just got ruffled there. So
I don't know.
Because that sounds really reminiscent to there's so many infections per 1,000 people. Now you got to close your business, and then we'll start slowly allowing you to have your life back once the parameters that we set are there. Yeah.
Well, this would be different because this would be a specific measurable commodity, right? So it's not something. It's not something more amorphous like the freedom to operate your business. But again, it would probably be. Look, never underestimate the capacity of something to be abused later on. So it would probably be a slippery slope into total chaos. We'd end up like Venezuela. I don't know.
Right.
But okay, but this is a good springboard, okay? Because now we got like, the idea of like gasoline. All right, that's clearly a measurable commodity, right? You can measure it. It's a physical thing. Right. Yeah. So it quite literally is the best example of like a zero-sum game that there is. There's a finite amount of stuff, and every person who has some means that eventually you're going to get to somebody who they can't get any. Right. So in that case, the ability to define an individual as selfish or unselfish is a lot easier. The problem that occurs is when we start using the zero-sum game like terminology to describe things that aren't zero-sum game, like happiness or like opportunities, right? So the problem with like a sort of ultra left-wing, well, I mean, it's not even necessarily left-wing, I shouldn't say that, but like, somebody like, oh, that guy got that job that I wanted, so he's being selfish, he's bad or whatever. It's like, well, no, I mean, just because somebody else, you know what I mean? Like this is I think a good mark of sort of a mature, evolved person, where they can see other people getting ahead, and they don't immediately gut reaction to go, that means that they hurt me somehow. Right? I mean, the world is full of infinite possibilities. So the fact that somebody else is succeeding, you know what I mean? That, sometimes you're competing for certain stuff, right? But like the world is big, and there's a lot of different hierarchies that you can climb. And the quicker that you can get it, go ahead.
No. I would say that's that's not a crazy interpretation. People feel that way. I've never felt that. Like I've taken or seen stuff and go, oh crap, that sucks. I wish I was doing that. I wish I was better. I wish that person's succeeding more than I am, or excelling in a way that I'm not. But I've never gone, they're taking something that I should have. Like they took mine. Like that was mine. They got it. And that sucks. Like I've never my brain doesn't work that way.
Especially I mean, we've all felt that way. But
well, I mean, I felt jealousy, and I felt not shame, but like just going, crap, I'm not where I want to be. But I've never gone, dang it, Dan, you took literally that thing that I wanted. Unless we're like directly competing, which is very rare that you're actually directly competing.
I mean, it's a low thing. It's a low vibrational form of, I don't know if you've heard that term. It's just something that people say, like high vibrational energy, low vibrational energy. It's like people who get involved in like petty drama amongst their friends and stuff like that, and everything, they take everything as like an offense to them. Like that person's not respecting me and all this kind of stuff, or you're being this. That's low vibrational energy, right? And then high vibrational energy is when you're able to, kind of be in your wise mind, and you're being skeptical of your own emotions, and you're trying to be your evolved self. So, the idea of just assuming that something, because somebody else has something that means that is a detriment to you, that's a low vibration. You know what I mean? Like nobody really respects those people. And it's an indicator of a person's own insecurity. Yeah. You know what I mean? Sure. So
yeah. Like I said, like on the moments where I'm not, when I have those moments, that's not a positive thing for me. It's not, it's a failure for me to realize where I'm at and be grateful for the things I have.
Yeah.
More or less.
I mean, but it's hard because, I mean, we're both musicians, and the musician world is.
Oh, I gave up on this a long time ago.
Well, yeah, it's like there's a very small minority of people that are at what we would call the top. Right. And it's like a bunch, we know how it is in different scenes with different bands going around. It's like crabs in a barrel. What's that metaphor? Where the more everybody kind of claws, and then nobody's able to get out, because if once one person's crab starts to get out, the other crabs pull him down because they don't know any better.
I live on the definitely coast. Like I should understand that analogy better, but I know what you mean.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so like it's definitely that way amongst, because musician artist types, we're all a little bit crazy, especially when you get into it when you're young and you got all this energy and you're like, the world should be this way, and you know what I mean. You're trying to be artistic, and then you slowly learn the hard way that like, nobody cares about the songs you wrote. You know what I mean? So
correct.
They want to hear Mustang Sally for the 800th time. But
yeah.
I mean,
that's true.
But so, it's very easy if you never mature past. I mean, it's one thing if you're 18 and you have that kind of mentality, because it's like, none of us know what we're doing when we're 18. But if you're 58 and you're still kind of looking at the world that way, it's like, have you made no progress in the past 40 years? Somebody, or like, when you're single, it's like you see everybody else as like in these great relationships, and you're like, oh, that's, and you start being angry at them. You know what I mean? Or if you're in a relationship that you're unhappy in, and then all you see are like happy single people out there, just, you see people's Instagram looks like they're in like a commercial for like chewing gum or something. Everybody's like got these perfect teeth, and they're all like going to like Fiji and stuff,
Yeah, but the thing, and then to get out of that though, like if you're not happy with where you are in your life, and then you want to make positive changes, and you want to aspire for more, that's a self-interested motive, right? Like that's something that you are trying to make your life better in whichever way you see fit, or whichever deficit you see. And if you don't have the freedom to do that, that's a net negative. That's not good. Like if you don't have the freedom to be self-interested, that you don't have freedom to pursue your goals.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I think, the objectivist point of view on liberty. Say, hey man, if the opposite of that is tyranny, then if that's liberty, the opposite of that is tyranny. So, and then that's why Ayn Rand, I think, would go to altruism, or caring for, doing extra for other people as a net negative, because then you're kind of, I think you've already touched on this, you're trampling on your own personal liberty, and you don't have to, but you are. You're hemming yourself in, and that at that point, I mean, that's a fair assessment, I think. Yes, do you?
Probably, yeah.
And
I think her main criticisms of the it was more about the forced altruism.
Well,
right?
No, I've heard her say even, forced altruism for sure, because that's a direct violation of your freedom to act. But even altruism in the sense of excess giving to charities and looking out for others, that you might just feel like you should, not maybe even your family. Like, that's a self-imposed negative thing.
Yeah, and it's sort of an institutionalized kind of thing.
Yes, maybe. Yeah, right. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's a culturally defined hemming in or tyranny. And but then again, I always disagreed with that, because as a Christian person, or just as a person who's not trying to be a total jerk, there's mass benefits to sharing and giving and helping others. Like that's not a detriment, or it's not an immoral thing to do. And she would actually, since it restrains your ability to be self-interested, even if it's self-restrained, you're self-restraining, and then that's still immoral.
Yeah,
she would. I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
Yeah, I mean, Ayn Rand was not a very touchy-feely person, so she would probably not put a lot of stock in the transformative aspect of altruism, right? The idea that that helping other people, that doing good for them, is doesn't just benefit them, but it transforms and benefits you as well. Right. So, she would look at it kind of only in terms of like, well, what am I sacrificing for that? And am I denying my own egoic self by doing that kind of thing? And it's missing the whole other part where it's like, yeah, but there's a whole other level that our brains work on where it benefits us, mentally, emotionally, ecumenically, whatever, to help other people. And that's just kind of not really the way that her brain worked. She was pretty, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think, I mean, looking at her life story, she grew up in Russia, and had to live through all of that kind of stuff. And then she, eventually made her way here, and then saw the rise of, when socialism kind of started to make its way over to America, and then it would start using different names like postmodernism and stuff like that. She clearly had a lot of trauma from her early years, to where it's like any sort of redistributionism, any sort of the language that the Bolsheviks and the communists would use of like, we all need to do this and we all need to do that. Like that clearly was very triggering for her. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like anytime somebody would mention something about like, well, it's the government's responsibility to help those, and it would immediately bring up like, oh, okay, so now we're on the slippery slope towards the gulag.
Correct.
And, I don't think it's necessarily like that, but I would respect her emotion for feeling that way, given where she came from. Right. Just like I would respect somebody, I guess from way on the other side, somebody who grew up, in maybe like apartheid South Africa, or, of an African American in the deep South, who just all they saw was the system. I would have to respect their emotions coming from, there's probably a lot of truth in both sides of it, so yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. I don't know, man. So the last couple of days have been crazy though. Just like watching people go nuts. I mean, it's like pre and post hurricane stuff. It's nuts. And like, it's just funny. I saw like just a stuff that pops into my head. Like you just see lines out the door of people buying like 15 generators, like cleaning out Lowe's, like one or two people, and they're not using that. Sorry, that's a great example. They're buying that so then they can sell it later and jack up the price. And we kind of had that conversation about price gouging and stuff. That's not necessarily in the moment the way it should work. I don't think I would do that, but actually, I know I wouldn't do that.
Maybe the way to look at it would be, okay, yeah, technically they would be operating in their own self-interest, but they're forgetting about the rational part of the rational self-interest phrase.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the fact that they are doing that and ignoring the other issues at play indicates that they're operating from their fear center, their hindbrain, more so than their, you know what I mean? So like somebody who's, like I don't know, like their Bitcoin tanks or something like that, and they go and they buy a bunch of ammo. Like that's a person who like thinks that they're operating rationally, but they're not really maybe recognizing how much their fear center is influencing their thoughts.
Sure.
So I think person actually they're not really operating in their own best self-interest because they're making clearly sort of emotionally informed decisions.
Yeah.
That their emotions are writing checks that they can't cash. I don't know.
Well, I think if you're hoarding gas in this week, you're operating from that perspective by definition.
Yeah. Because and it's kind of I mean, how long is that gas even going to last? I mean,
right. Where are you going to keep it? I mean, no one's taking away. Well, I mean, some people were maybe taking away one extra car tank worth of gas at the best. Yeah. And then all that did was just shove everything down. But like the hurricane example, no one's acting from fear when you buy 15 generators. You don't need 15 generators at your house. You can't even use 15 generators. You're artificially cleaning out the inventory.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying.
So then you can sell it. So that's like we were talking about like hurricane stuff where like the water's gone. That's because people buy water because they need water. They weren't necessarily buying all the water to sell it again, but the water is gone, and then stores will jack the price up of water, so you don't purchase 16 pallets of water. You just buy what you need to get by, and then it's enough for everybody. Now the guy with the generators is literally buying it all just to sell it. I mean, that's just literally put them on eBay. We're going on the side of the road outside of the Lowe's parking lot and going, hey, Lowe's is out. I got a few of them. Happens to be 3 times the cost, but you need a generator. I got your generator.
Yeah.
So that's not a rational self-interested move. It's a self-interested move. That's probably crosses the line of selfishness. It's like kind of it's like one of those things, man. It's when you see it when you see it. It's in the eye of the beholder. It's not necessarily definable all the time.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating. I think.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would love to figure out who it was who bought all the toilet paper last year. Because
I think that's the latter. I think that's the former. I think this is people freak the hell out.
Yeah, but I still haven't figured out how anybody thought that a global virus was going to affect toilet paper supplies.
But once word got out, man, that's all it takes.
Yeah, because it only takes like 1% actually believing that, we need to get all this. And then it takes the people following that and be like, oh, well, that person's crazy. I'm not crazy, but I need to get some before it runs out.
Yeah, because they're all these crazy people stealing my toilet paper.
Right. So it only takes a small percentage of people actually being crazy to drive everyone else who's not crazy to like, well, I don't want to be the one left without the toilet paper. It's hilarious to me.
That's how Hitler came to power. It was a run on toilet paper, and people were like, I never thought it would be me, but here I am hoarding toilet paper and putting Jews in prison.
Yeah. First they came for the toilet paper, and I did nothing. Then they came for the paper towels, and again I did nothing.
And then the gas lines came, and
yeah. Did you see the video of the lady who was like literally she had like a garbage bag?
I know, yeah.
She had and she was holding it up, and she was just pouring the gas. And she was like trying to pick it up to put it in, and it was like clearly just like sprung. I was like, oh, God. Yeah. I was just like waiting for like, what happens when somebody gets rear-ended? Will their car explode? You know what I mean? Or it's like, or you get, and then like your gas is leaking all over the road. You know what I mean? And then it's just like,
you're responsible for gas spills at a gas station. You're supposed to clean that crap up. The attendant's not going to do it. The signs clearly state you're responsible. Do not spill gas. You have the cleanup kit there. You clean it up. No one's doing that crap. Crazy.
Yeah. Made worse by the fact that it was like really gloomy and rainy today.
Yeah, today was a shitty day to be stuck out.
So it was like everybody was just like, there was at the gas station I was at, there was this lady who was like, I feel like she was trying to play dumb. She kind of had this kind of like, what, kind of like looking around. She was in like a tiny little thing or whatever, but she knew what she was doing, because she was just kind of like, oh, I'm just gonna come in here, and then she tried to she had this tiny little car she was trying to sneak in front of this truck, and then the guy in the truck was like, no, and she's like, why?
Yeah, man.
She knew what she was doing. She was trying to play dumb.
She did. Well, yeah, I got gas Monday morning, like 6:30 at a gas station. And then on my way in, I saw every other gas station kind of closing up. So,
yeah.
It's weird.
Even the Gas Buddy app was crashed.
I don't even know what that is. Is that just like a gas price thing?
Well, it started out as like an app where you could like track where gas prices were. And then they released a special little version of it that tells you which gas stations in your area have gas or don't have gas or have no power or whatever. And then it wouldn't even load. It's like we were experiencing normal, like higher than normal demand. It was pretty funny.
I'm sure they were. They were.
So I don't know.
Yeah, human nature's strange, man. Like, just think about that. Like, we live in such a pampered culture that just the thought of running out of gas throws everybody into a panic. Like gasoline in your car, and that's such a first world problem. I mean, it's a real problem if you can't get to work. I get that, but like, just what happens if there's no gas tomorrow? We will literally be eating each other's faces in like inside a week.
I would be curious to see if there's been any like violence or anything. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard about any, but
well, plus it was like the whole thing is precipitated by an infrastructure attack. So like, if major supply lines go down in the United States, like cities only have supplies for like they're like groceries and stuff like that for like 3 or 4 days on average, like a major city.
Yeah, they're not running a large margin on this kind of stuff.
No, they're not. Like it's a lot of just in timey kind of thing, which is fine and understandable. I mean, you can't store everything for everybody, but it's the thought, like if there's a disruption, it can go south real quick. So I might start a prepper little commune thing. If you want to move down to the coast, man, we'll get a bunker and we'll just gasoline, toilet paper, and
make sure it's above sea level.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll just go inland into the Croatan. I'm like right by the Croatan. We can go right in there. We'll find a spot. No one will know it. That'd be good. Yeah.
Because I'd be like, oh look, this is a great bunker. There's something happens, and you're like, yeah, we got stuff for it. And then it's like a Category 4 hurricane comes, and the whole thing floods.
Yeah. We'll get away from the creeks. That'll be good. That'll be right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's go ahead.
No, it's just I got nothing else to say. It's just scary, and not really scary, but it could be. It could be funky, man. And I was just thinking back, like with Florence and stuff. It was nuts around here, for weeks and weeks and weeks. And that wasn't even like a major. It was a major hurricane, but it wasn't like something that just came and flattened everything. And it was just still any disruption. Yeah. But any disruption to the normal ebb and flow of people's day-to-day lives. Yeah, really throws a wrench into everything.
Yeah, but I mean, even hurricanes are predictable enough that you see people like we have in like our families. Like my parents are like, yeah, we know what to do when a hurricane comes. It's a pain in the ass, right? And then there's months of chainsawing afterwards. I mean, and that's assuming you don't get like major house damage. But it's like, it's the devil, right? I think if this thing was like people didn't really anticipate it, so.
That is correct.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with life is hard. I mean, just being alive, existing. Nobody's guaranteed an easy go of it, right? And I think
very true.
I mean, that's Captain Obvious there, but like a lot of people struggle with really accepting what that means. They're so. I don't know. I think it takes a person maybe who's been through some stuff to really, I don't know. It's like, what's that Simpsons quote where like Bart says like, this is the worst day of my life. And then Homer says the worst day of your life so far.
Yeah. So far. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, I remember thinking that when my kids were babies, like the idea that like, they'd be crying about something stupid, like their cookie fell on the floor. And it's like, okay, I get it, because up till now, this is the worst thing you've ever experienced. This is the bar, right?
That
But then the
cookie
longer,
was your life. Yes.
yeah. So it's understandable emotion, but the longer you go through life, your bar gets stretched out as to what the worst possible thing could be. So, you know, they say like, hard times create great people, or like, and then great people raise soft children, and soft people create more hard times because they don't know what they're doing. I'm mangling that quote or whatever, but it's true. I mean, you know, the people are, I don't know. They say, you know, like our grandparents' generation, you know, went through wars and stuff, and then people for our parents' generation, you know, there was civil rights, Vietnam, and all this kind of stuff, and like, you know, you and I have been blessed that we grew up in a time where there comparatively was a lot less tumultuous experience, and so, you know, it's up to each. I don't wish calamity on somebody, like, obviously, you know what I mean, like,
oh yeah, for sure,
right, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of hard to become your ideal self without it. You know,
yeah, man. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, adversity is good. I mean, lifting weights builds muscle. Like, you have to like tear down your muscle to have it build back up. Like, you have to like hurt yourself a little to get stronger. That's not and also I'm fat, so don't take weightlifting advice from me. But I mean, I know that's true. I just don't do it.
Yeah,
but,
right.
I mean, that's all. Like, it's not that hard. I mean, it is hard, but the understanding of it's not hard. But yeah, that's very true. And then it's like if you shelter your kids, man, they're gonna grow up to be horrible little monsters with no way to, you know, react to the real world. So you know, you can't comfort them, can't pamper people. But
yeah,
I don't know, and maybe it's unfair to say we got a whole generation of pampered people, but I think to some degree that's true. There's no way around.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's obviously exceptions. But I mean, even the problem is that, like, even not everybody responds to adversity in a good way.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like some people encounter adversity and look at Batman. The whole story of Batman is about, like, Batman responds to tragedy in a kind of unhealthy way and becomes a vigilante, but he does a net good for society. Right. But then literally every one of Batman's villains in his rogues gallery all have some sort of tragic backstory where something horrible happened to them. And rather than become a virtuous force for good in society, they went in the other direction and, you know, became villains and with some sort of chaotic plan or whatever. So a lot of people do that in real life. You know, they respond to their trauma by just paying it forward and trauma on other people, you know? So, yeah. But I mean, so something that I've thought about for a while was that, like, the idea of like say your house burns down and you get like insurance money to rebuild your house, and it's like, okay, well, that's sad because it's like I lost all my stuff. But if you say money wasn't an object and the insurance company gave you money to you're like, okay, well, I get to go out and buy all new stuff. He's like, yeah, but. Like, you know, so there's pros and cons to that, because in one sense it gives you the opportunity to repopulate your home with all stuff that you're choosing, as opposed to like, oh, that was the couch that somebody gave to me 15 years ago that wasn't really that great, but it was all I could afford and I just kind of kept it, right? Or it's like, you know what, I never really liked that chair, it was kind of ugly, and all these kind of things. And so once you get over the initial tragedy of losing these things that are connecting you to your previous epochs of existence, it's actually an opportunity, right? So I thought about that, you know, a lot for me. Like, you know, I had a period of life where it felt like everything was kind of just in shambles, and obviously that was traumatic and hard. But then I eventually, over a long period of time, started to realize that it was kind of an opportunity, because now, like, if I take away all the parts of myself that were grandfathered in, that were baked into the cake, now literally every piece that I put back in there is something that I'm intentionally choosing. And so I end up with a version of me that feels way more fun to be, rather than, you know, because when everybody's just cruising along on automatic, as it were, like, you got like, all right, well, there's this part of my personality that I kind of developed in college, but that's not really me. And like, I was just kind of being like my friend group. And then I got, you know, this opinion about things that I just sort of, it was easier to just agree. And, you know, like people who go through their life thinking that like all American cars are crap. You know, we were all told in the 80s and 90s, oh, you always buy Camrys and Hondas and Toyotas and stuff. And it's like, Well, that's not true anymore.
No, for
You know
sure.
what I mean? So it's like, but that's, a lot of people just, they go through their life. They have opinion like, oh, this team is horrible, right? Or like, who wants to live in Florida? Or, whatever opinions they have. And then so sometimes, a fire sale, as it were, that shakes everything up is an opportunity to, like I used to build Legos and I would smash the first one accidentally. But then when I built it the second time, it was way better.
Ah, that's your secret to adversity, Dan. There you go. The Lego
Yeah.
destruction. I like it. Well, listen, man, we're running long on time.
What
wanna
about the
answer
length of
silly-
an hour-long TV show when allotting for commercials?
Yeah, no, I don't mind it being as long. Just we'll give it a few more minutes, maybe. You want to answer a silly question on Facebook?
Yes.
So you won't get this, but we'll talk about it. So Nicole asks, "Did you eat Arby's today?" And I'm gonna take this and I'll segue this for you. No, I did not eat Arby's. Arby's is delicious, but I did not eat it. And I think Arby's is probably better than a lot of West Coast only chain restaurants, but I'm not eating there, so I can't say. Never been to a Jack in the Box or an In-N-Out or any of that jazz. Dan, fast food wise, what's
my
your
answer is-
go-to fast food? Or if you have a thought on that, lay it on me, bro. I
Well, I do
don't
like
have one.
Arby's.
Me too.
So
I like Arby's
yeah,
a lot.
I like their gyros. The Greek gyros, they're really good.
Yeah,
And those curly fries are the jam. But
the curly fries are
Yeah.
freaking amazing.
they're
I mean,
really
I'm a
good.
sucker. I'm a sucker for the regular roast beef sandwich, the cheese whiz that's on it, and like the Arby's sauce.
Yeah, well,
very
I'm not
good.
into the cheese whiz thing, but yeah. But I mean,
Wow, you should be with the onion bun. Oh my god, the onion bun, it's so good.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking? Yeah, all right.
No,
Arby's
I
is good
agree.
all around. Yes. But what's your go-to
I mean,
on the fast food,
I don't know.
or do you have one?
Well, I mean, I take the kids to Chick-fil-A a lot because they like it. And also because,
That's the one.
I mean, Chick-fil-A is the most immaculately run chain. I mean, has there ever been a chain of businesses that's run more efficiently and smartly than Chick-fil-A? I mean,
It's impressive.
it's like, because there's a million fast food restaurants in Durham. I mean, you just drive around and there's just all over the place. The Chick-fil-A's are always packed, but they never have problems. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I was on a road trip the other day and I tried to go into a Zaxby's. It was literally like there was two people there. It was like 15 minutes to move 2 feet. And I went right down the street to the Chick-fil-A and there was like cars. It looked like, like these gas lines, except it was a Chick-fil-A and everybody got their food within 5 minutes. It was insane because they just, I don't know, whoever, they figured some stuff out there. I don't know.
I was gonna say, if Chick-fil-A was handling the gas shortages, there would be no shortage. It would just be.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. You're good.
A bunch
You're
of
good.
a bunch of 16-year-olds out there
Yeah.
working their first job, directing traffic with a
Right.
smile.
Within 18 hours, a canopy will have been built from here to Greensboro just to cover everybody in shade, and everybody would get gas in like a heartbeat.
Yeah, every
And a
tank of
delicious
gas comes
sandwich.
with a little book that has a Bible story in it.
Yeah.
But the problem with Chick-fil-A
Yeah.
is they're very limited. I mean, there's like two things they make, right? They chicken and chicken nuggets, and they put them into different kinds of sandwiches. That spicy deluxe sandwich is amazing. I had one of those for lunch, but it's like, yeah,
It is good. I don't eat fast food often. If we're on the road or something and we're getting family fast food, Chick-fil-A is the
yeah.
go-to.
I try not to because
Yeah.
I'm always out
But-
driving around. But it's
I still unabashedly love Taco Bell. That is my favorite fast food, and it's so bad. It's so terrible. It's so gross. It makes me feel like garbage, like mentally, physically, spiritually. After I eat it, I feel like I just did a big bowl of crack. And I
yeah.
don't know what
Taco
a big
Bell
bowl
is
of crack feels like, but I think it's like eating a big Taco Bell burrito.
yeah. I mean, I worked at Taco Bell for probably about 4 or 5 months,
Yeah,
and
you
like
did. It was awesome.
I don't know. It's one of the it's almost, you know how they say people have like momnesia, where like like or dadnesia, where it's like a parent will forget how hard having a kid was, and then a couple years go by and they're like, I'd have another kid, and then they have another kid and you're like, oh crap, I forgot how hard this was. That's how I am with Taco Bell. Every like year or so, I'll be like, what do I want for lunch? I'm like, oh, let's talk. Oh man, get me one of those chalupas, man. And so I go in there like remembering how much I loved them in my youth, and then I get them and it's like.
Yep.
It's just it never lives up to what I expect, and I never leave a Taco Bell being like, "That was a smart choice." I didn't.
You never love the chalupa in your 30s like your kids in your 30s. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work the same way. I almost want to have another kid now just to name it Chalupa. Sally is not on board with that. There will be no Chalupa.
You can
Duran.
compromise and get a dog or something and name it Chalupa.
That's a great name for a dog. Chalupa. People are like, yeah, but it has to be like the most manly, not
a Chihuahua, not a little
Chihuahua
Taco Bell
dog. Yeah, exactly. I was trying to sound not like a racist, but yeah, the not Chihuahua Taco Bell dog.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right, dude. We're at 50 minutes. You want to call it a night?
Yeah,
All right,
sure.
buddy. This was fun.
All right.
I will talk to you soon.
All right. We're going to talk about they. All right.
Later.